Our next phase is processing, and probably that is the most alien to what our typical computer consumer experience would be. A process is a wide variety of different actions that your computer is going to undertake in order to execute a command that you have given it. So, before we go any further, we'll say a couple of things about processors before we get into the different processes that they undertake in. Now, we have been accustomed to thinking about a computer as something that has what is known as a CPU, a central processing unit. So when you go to a Best Buy, when you go order something online, when you go to eBay to order a laptop, whatever the case might be, the first thing you're accustomed to looking for is the processor, right? So you want to know if that's made by AMD or Apple or Intel. You want to know if that is 1.8 gigahertz at 6 cores or if that is 3.8 gigahertz at 6 cores or whatever, the different things it is that you are looking for in a processor. Now, before we get back to other things, I will mention that in chapter 6 we will talk again about all of those things that are necessary pieces of jargon when we were talking about gigahertz and cores and things of those natures. And what I'll tell you is for our next bit in chapter 2, we'll talk about what you should look for in the way of processors and the terms and the things that make the most sense for you as a consumer. And so you are going to get those pieces. I just don't want them here in this video because it would be even longer now that I've made this discretion into it already. So you are accustomed to thinking of the processor and maybe even are used to thinking of it as the only processor on your PC, on your tablet, on your vehicle, whatever the case may be. But really, there are dozens of them spread across your system. There's an audio processing, an APU, and that does exactly what you think it does. It has responsibility for, developing the sounds that are coming into and out of your PC. There is an ALU, an arithmetic and logical unit that goes through and does the math that we don't think about when we interact in general with our computer. So if I'm moving my mouse left to right, how is it that that's displayed on the screen? Well, probably you're moving your mouse in a direct line from where you are to where you want to be. So that's a pretty simple mathematical process, from point A to point B. So that's something that the system can go ahead and pre-compute to figure out where it is that you are going to go on that line. So arithmetic and logical processors are here on the machine as well. There are modems, so the things that figure out how to process data signals going out of and into your machine. So wireless, Wi-Fi, there's processing for that. Bluetooth, there's processing for that. Some of your systems, many of your systems, as a matter of fact, but especially actually the Mac side of things certainly has this enrolled in there. The PC side of things now with Alder Lake certainly has these things rolled into there. Don't worry, that's jargon that's coming the next time around. But we have things like artificial intelligence generators built right into the processes on your computer. As a matter of fact, we do have a video that is here at the start of the next session that actually shows you way better than I can without all the fancy graphics and stuff happening here behind me. Just Dungeon Basement. Um, you can see actually literally how the microprocessor is set up, so you can see how many different processors are just stacked into what we think of as the central processor, the CPU on our machine. And really what happens is every time you click on something, a decision has to be made by your system? Is it a menu? Is it supposed to have a sound associated with it? Does the cursor change? Actually, the cursor does change. We've just forgotten that it does. Um, all of those things are decisions, and all of those decisions have to be processed, and that's what those processors do for you. They take inputs and format them, or formulaically format them as outputs. They take outputs and figure out where the most appropriate place for that is. So if if you have a mouse that rumbles, is that an output? How do we do that? That's a processor's job. If we're doing graphics, that's a video processor's job. So I have an 8 gig video processor right here in this iMac, and that helps turn these videos into things that I can upload a lot faster than like in a low powered laptop could. So we will come back, especially we will come back with chapter 6, and we will take a look at what a bunch of these different processors are. But processing, so doing math, figuring out sounds, figuring out the display, figuring out all of those different things is really the most important job that a computer has. And interestingly, I have always thought, interestingly, it is the complete opposite of the importance that we place on it. We think, yeah, I clicked on something. Magic, make it happen. And really, all of that magic is not magic at all. It's math that is being distributed across your system in order to get to the output, the desired, I don't mean output like sound or, a vibration someplace, but I mean whatever the desired action is on the other side. And all of that is processing, and it's something we rarely, if ever, really think about.